Forest versus State in the journey final to decide the first champion of the new Atlantic Coast Conference.
In 1954, NC State beat Wake Forest in overtime to win the inaugural ACC championship. And 67 years later, this rivalry still rocks, with legends like Rogers, Duncan, and Paul, David Thompson, Rodney Monroe, and Julius Hodge all suiting up as part of this backyard brawl. Back in January, the Wolfpack won the first meeting in Raleigh behind Devin Daniels and Jericho Helms. And today, the Deacons look for revenge in Winston-Salem. We welcome you to ACC Basketball, presented by your local Ford dealer. Beautiful Saturday in Winston-Salem as we rekindle this rivalry that goes back 110 years. The Wolfpack of North Carolina State and the Deacons of Wake Forest. Good afternoon and welcome inside the Coliseum. Evan Lepler with Mike Jaminski. Great to be in the building. Great to have you with us. And Mike, since these two teams last met in late January, NC State's lost one of its top guys, Devin Daniels. Wake Forest has gotten Ian DeBose back. So how does those roster flips change things today?
Yeah, really for NC State, they're trying to replace their leading scorer, which is not easy to do. And for Wake Forest, just continue to get used to Steve Forbes' new system.
Well, Jericho Helms has been the key guy stepping up in Devin Daniels' absence for the Pack.
He's been terrific over these last 6 games. Without Daniels, really has become a primary scorer for the Wolfpack, and certainly he'll be a guy that's marked on the scouting report.
Obviously, Braxton Beverly, a guy who's been banged up, but he hit some big shots in NC State's win on Wednesday at Pitt.
Yeah, and in limited time, too. He's been coming off the bench in the last couple of games, 21 minutes against Pitt, but had 12 points, knocked down a couple of threes.
And the offense he gives them is huge. And meanwhile, Jonah Antonio, a week removed from hitting 7 trays with Mike Jaminski on hand in Tallahassee.
Yeah, they've had guys who have done that. 2 other guys that hit 7 threes, but he was terrific in this game. 7 of 8 from behind the arc, 23 points.
Trying to get Antonio shots as much as the Deacons can. Hey, we got an exciting matchup, the middle game of our triple header on your regional sports networks. Kevin Keats' Wolfpack, Steve Forbes' Deacons, the 254th meeting between these two Tobacco Road rivals. Ian DeBose and Wake Forest excited to battle DJ Funderburk and the Wolfpack. Our Toyota starting lineups are Kevin Keats, same lineup as Wednesday. Darion Sebron makes his 3rd start of the year with Hayes, Funderburk, Bates, and Helms. And it's the 4th straight game that Steve Forbes includes Carter Witt, the true freshman, who's really a high school senior G-man, along with Mucius, Williamson, Dubose, and Oguama.
Yeah, and covering the league, I can't remember a guy who came out of high school and played that same year in the second part of the season.
And the best news is he'll still be a freshman next year with the way the NCAA is handling eligibility. Officials today, Jeff Clark, Bill Covington Jr., and Lee Cassell. And the first shot of the game clangs off the back iron for Helms. DeBose didn't play in the first meeting in Raleigh. A game that NC State won 72-67. They were up by as many as 18, controlled the tempo most of the game, but the key play from that game was when Devin Daniels went down with about 9 minutes to go.
Yeah, DeBose 15 points average over these last 3, but his issue has been fouls, and on the defensive end of the floor, staying on the court an issue.
He brings a veteran presence. Houston Baptist transfer. Shot clock down to 6 for Carter Witt. And the shot clock will move back to 20. Touch foul on the perimeter on NC State. Called on Cam Hayes.
I think with Witt, he's the guy that you have to play to make him finish inside. He's such a great passer when he gets in the lane, can really find 3-point shooters.
Now, you were basically a high school senior when you started playing ACC basketball, too. Different era.
Brad Doherty right in the same age group as well.
On the drive, it's Mucius getting the Deacons on the board.
Mucius is one of those guys who has had 7 threes in a game, and you just wonder if 2 of them can put it together this afternoon.
Inside, Funderburk, no. On the second effort, the foul on Oguama from behind.
And this is an area where Wake has got to get better. They're going to have to, gang rebound and Good shape up that time. Good entry pass by Funderburk, and then just beating everybody off the floor on the second opportunity.
So all season long, Steve Forbes has expressed acknowledged concern about the Deacs' lack of size. How does Manny Bates, DJ Funderburk take advantage of that?
Well, and probably offensive boards more than anything. And although Manny Bates has gotten his low box game has gotten better, and you know, if they can put some pressure, some foul pressure on Wake Forest up front, get on the offensive glass. That's the other thing. On the other end of the floor, Wake really doesn't have a rim protector to speak of. So we got to see some drives to the basket.
And how will the Demon Deacons handle this full court pressure?
Steve Forbes told us with DeBoe's back that pressure really has not bothered them.
Davian Williamson on the drive, up and under for two.
Nice take, nice use of the rim that time to get the shot blocker off.
I'm so impressed with Williams' poise. He's just a gamer.
Yep.
Could say the same about Helms. Turnaround for two.
You know, they're starting to settle in. When you lose a player like Devin Daniels, you know, a game or two, everybody can amp up their personal stats. But now the 7th game without him, starting to settle into a little bit of a rhythm.
Helms 9 straight double figures. DeBoe's on the drive, too strong, and Bates.
Yeah, and despite the shot blocking of Manny Bates inside, Wake trying to attack the rim early.
Entry pass to Helms could not be controlled. Yeah. Bates leading the ACC in block shots. Wake has had more of its possessions end in blocks this year than any other team in the country, just under 16%. But theoretically, it's a big day for Manny Bates, thwarting shots at the rim. That pass headed toward the sidelines. Steve Forbes' team turned it over 20 times in the first meeting against NC State, January 27th.
Well, and Evan, you want to minimize turnovers, but if you're going to make them, dead ball turnovers like that are the best case because you can get back and set your defense up rather than giving NC State a run out.
Steve Forbes in year 1 at Wake Forest after winning an average of 26 games per season in his 5 years at East Tennessee State. 23rd head coach in Wake Forest basketball history, 114 years of history. NC State's in year 111. These two teams have been playing since 1911. Sebron to the bucket.
Yeah, good take for him. You know, 46% shooter, not a three-point shooter, so you really have to play him and defend him for the drive.
Antonio's into the game. Fires cross court for Williamson. Takes it cross court. Pretty good ball movement. Sets up Mucius for three.
That's what they do. It really won't be a post presence for Wake Forest in their offense. They'll play 5 guys out on the floor and a lot of cutting. They'll get back cuts and look for open threes.
Pretty good hands there. Mucius comes up with a steal. Have you been impressed with the way Wake has run offense for most of this season?
Yeah, I mean, against Florida State, they were terrific, and they got the turnover. It's a live ball turnover.
Of course, right on cue, they turn it. And Funderburk will get to the free throw line. Foul going on Mucius. Time for our Ford Keys to the game, brought to you by your local Ford dealer. What you got, G-Man?
Well, for NC State, I mean, Kevin Keats, his whole thing has been we've been turning the ball over too much, so they've got to value the basketball.
Isaiah Mucius did just pick up his second foul. And he goes to the bench. Ishmael Massoud into the ball game for the first time today. A quick first step, Shaquille Moore. And Antonio is pushed. He had a foot on the end line, but they're going to rule a pushing foul on Moore.
You're talking about the shot blocking. Wake Forest gets the first one of the afternoon.
Sebron putting the pressure on Williamson in the backcourt. Moore picks up Witt.
And this pressure, and that was basically just run some time off the clock and shorten up the time that Wake has in the half court.
Deacons 3 of 5 so far at this end. Massoud a little out of control.
You're out of control and you don't have a good base, and that's when that back line, especially Manny Bates, gets their blocks. The Thunderbird pretty good as well.
Thunderbird in and out. Would have been his second made three of the season. Now 1 for 9. I'll tell you, G-Man, I know you think he shouldn't shoot that. I think he can make that shot. Even though the stats don't necessarily show it. Wake turns it over, and we get ourselves a quick timeout. 15:25 to go first half. 7-6 Deacs. January 27th, a disappointing conclusion for Devin Daniels with 9 minutes to go. That left knee buckled, and he tore the ACL, G-Man. He was leading the pack in scoring, assists, and steals. Just a gigantic loss for Kevin Keats' team.
Well, and the numbers aside, I mean, he was the vocal leader of that team. He was the voice of the locker room, and that's very hard to replace. Now, you know, Devin's been around the team a little bit, and but you feel for him. The redshirt senior year, that's a tough thing to take.
Kevin told us that sometimes your best player isn't your biggest voice, but Devin was both the best player and the loudest voice, and it has been an adjustment. Inside, nice move, Manny Bates.
And that's something you wouldn't have seen out of him in the last, especially the last year, but they've gotten much more comfortable throwing him the ball in the low post, and there was no double team that time.
Manny scored 8 points apiece in 3 consecutive games, trying to get back into double figures here today. Okay, 2 points, 2 blocks in the first 5 minutes.
And by having all these people out there trying to get Bates away from the basket to neutralize his shot blocking ability.
Neath driving on Beverly, who defends it pretty well, and Neath scores anyway.
Well, and Neath, he got bailed out, and it's because of his size. At 6'3", he was able to see over the top of Beverly and get the shot off.
Back and forth we go on the odd number early in this Saturday matinee. Bates
stepped out of bounds.
Jack Moore, the third Wolfpack turnover.
Well, it wasn't a clean game in Raleigh, and Wake Forest had 20 turnovers, but State had 17 in that game.
Thunderbird back in. Helms gets a breather. Wake has Neath, Williamson, Antonio, Oguama, and Masood. Antonio nearly turns it over. Ball finds him, and he scores.
Boy, and you know, Steve Forrest said he's more of a catch and shoot guy, but a nice job off the dribble that time on the mid-range shot.
And Jonah Antonio playing his 16th game. That's just his 5th two-pointer of the season, along with 31 threes.
And coming off that game against Florida State, Duke really had him locked down. He was not a factor in their loss this week.
Only took 3 shots on Wednesday in just 15 minutes. And they got Bates for a moving screen on the inbounds. First on Manny.
Yeah, it'd be a huge plus if they can get him in foul trouble here early, get him out of the game off the court.
Oh, great defense. Shaq Moore picks the pocket and lays it in.
That was just man-on-man full court and a terrific defensive play.
And you're a little reluctant the rest of the game if you're Jacoby Neath every time you get the ball. Wondering where that defender is. Oguama kicks it. Masood on the drive. Cross contact.
Look at this. This is just being undressed right in front of everybody. And great hands, great defensive play, and then doesn't knock it out of bounds and converts it into points.
They called the foul on Bates, and that's his second personal. From UC, it's with 2 for Wake. Bates with 2 for State. Manny to the bench. Helms back in there. And Masood's a guy, I mean, he's an explosive offensive player. Clearly can shoot it. Scored 31 in the game against Pitt. In the 6 games since then, he's got 30 combined.
Yeah,
5 a game.
It really, that one has been a +1 so far. But again, when you're scouting this team, you got to look at those guys who have made 7 threes in a game and have to pay attention to them until they start missing.
NC State's done a pretty good job so far being attentive and closing out on the shooters. Wake has only attempted 1 3.
Yeah, if you can drive them off the 3-point line, it's going to be a big plus for the defense in this game today.
Ashley in the truck has to get the graphic for foul trouble early because Odiaguama just picked up his second. That's 3 guys with 2 fouls in 7 minutes as Beverly picks up where he left off with a teardrop.
We've had 3-point shooters getting into the lane and making shots.
7 minutes gone, a 1-point game. Kevin Keats has had success against Wake Forest. He's 6-1 against the Deacons. The only loss was when NC State was ranked 17th in the nation and lost here at the Joel a couple of years ago.
There's that look, a little 2-man game, and does a nice job. He had 2 options on that play. Funderburk was open going to the rim, and he thought that was actually a lob, but a little teardrop inside.
Yeah, if you're rolling there, you want the pass to get the easy 2. By the way, G-Man, Shaq Moore also with 2 fouls now. So each team with 2 guys with 2 apiece. NC State is not overflowing with depth right now.
We're not even at the halfway mark of the first half, and both teams almost in the bonus.
Jalen Johnson comes up with a loose ball. Witt, pestered by Beverly from behind, gets it back to Johnson.
Well, you think about Witt and, should be in high school, and talk about breaking into the toughest position in basketball, and this is the 3 that time. And you got to come in and run a team in the ACC.
Nice pass, and Sebron throws it down.
That's what NC State wants to do. They want to get out and run, get in the open floor.
$14 all. 8 minutes gone first half, and an offensive foul. NC State at its best when it's run of the break. Darian Sebron, the freshman from Norfolk, Virginia, with a loud 2 to tie it up.
ACC Hoops is brought to you by The Fresh Market. Discover the best today. Toyota. Visit your local Toyota dealers today. And Coyote Tractor. We dig dirt.
It's been 50 years since Charlie Davis was named ACC Player of the Year. In 1971, he will be honored at halftime today. The first African-American ACC Player of the Year. And our Ford Keys to the game presented by your local Ford dealer. What you got?
Well, for NC State, and Kevin Keats has talked about that value of the ball. Turnovers have hurt them, and so far 5 in this game. Wake 5 as well, but transition defense has been a big key in this game. And, NC State, we talked about how they like to get out and run, and State has scored off of 3 of those 5 turnovers in the open floor.
Tied at 14 here. Just over 8 minutes gone in the first half. And Mike, we're going to get to chat with Charlie Davis, I think, later on in the ball game. So looking forward to that. Loose ball, bodies tumbling on the floor. Helms got there first. Flip it inside. Funderburk on the block. Pretty good defense. Referees let the physicality go.
Yeah, no, it was a great job of forcing him under the basket. Really no shot.
Here's Dubose, who picked up the foul right before the break at the offensive end. Okomo traveled. This guy's shown flashes, but he is a raw talent. 6'10", 220 from Jackson, Mississippi.
Yeah, with him, he's not going to pick and pop. He's going to roll into the basket. And State did a nice job covering the paint area, forcing him to shuffle his feet.
NC State adds to its points off turnovers crop. 3 for Cam Hayes.
And Hayes he's probably the purest point guard of the guys they have in that position. But shoots well enough, you have to respect that 3.
Pomo again turns it over inside for the Deeks. Hayes all the way to the bucket, in and out. It will stay with the Pack.
Just so fast with the basketball that, you know, the primary thing on that, somebody's got to step up and stop him, but he had to run right to the rim.
Masood's on Funderburk. Gives it back out to Sebron. Sebron, Moore, and Hayes, the 3 freshman guards, have all played a lot lately, and Cam Hayes earning more PT. As Steve Forbes has seen enough, takes the timeout.
And earning a little more respect from behind the 3-point line as well.
Well, Hayes, his previous 12 consecutive games scoring in single digits before getting 11 points at Pittsburgh, along with a season best 9 assists on Wednesday. And here's his second 3 of the half.
Well, you can see his defender, Jalen Johnson, gets caught going underneath the screen. Now, that's probably a good way coming in on the scouting report to play it. But he's made 2 right now. You're going to have to fight over the top and keep a hand up on him.
8 straight points for the Wolfpack. Jericho Helms, the 3rd all-time leading scorer at Chaminade High School in St. Louis. 3 other NBA guys on that list. For the Red Devils, our Honda startup presented by Honda dealers of the Carolinas.
I would have liked to, think about Helms, who's the 3rd option of that group. I would like to see a team that beat them when they were in high school.
I like what you said pregame when we were looking at graphics. You wondered if David Lee had more rebounds than points in his career.
I don't think those guys were missing a whole lot, so I don't think there were offensive rebounds to be had.
Of course, they weren't all there at the same time, but pretty good cornerstones to a high school team. And whatever it is, folks from St. Louis have a lot of pride about being from St. Louis. I got some cousins from St. Louis, and they want the respect.
I had a good and bad experience in St. Louis.
Okay, Ian DuBose knocks it down. What you got?
Well, the good one was beating Notre Dame in the semifinals. The bad one was losing to Kentucky in the finals. At the Checker Dome.
The highs and lows of the Final Four. Midway through the first half, Funderburk has the mismatch, but cannot convert on a couple chances. NC State will get a 3rd try this trip. Funderburk from 18 feet, no. And this is where the size of NC State starting to make its presence felt. Jalen Johnson picks up the foul.
Yeah, they've doubled Wake 10-5 and gotten on the offense glass, and this is turning into a football possession for State.
There have been some tussles between these 2 teams, physical battles through the years. That was the 7th team foul on Wake, so Helms will shoot 1 and 1 with 9:46 to go. And now a quick word from Works.
Works Landroid Robotic Lawnmower. Available at mylandroid.com. The future of lawn care is here.
All 7 members of the Wolfpack who have played have scored. And perhaps some blood on Helms' leg.
Well, and Evan, too, I mean, you got State that's got 8 more field goal attempts in the game, and that's a function of offensive rebounds and turnovers here early.
Offensive rebounds 6-1 in favor of the Wolfpack. Turnovers 7-5, the Deacons with 7. Kevin Keats, originally from Lynchburg, Virginia.
And that was, I like that change. It's been a while, but they used to automatically take you out of the game if there was a blood issue, but now they give you a few seconds to go over and get attended to, and that's usually all it takes.
And the athletic trainers are at their best. They're on the clock and get this guy patched up.
More importantly, they're in the camera shot.
Wake Forest has gone cold at this end of the floor.
Well, and really good defense. You mentioned it early by State covering out. They're defending the 3-point line extremely well.
Knowing how key that is for Wake. Masood does get a look with the clock winding down. And Jalen Johnson secures the offensive rebound, but then turns it over. Ahead, Sebron. Foul going on Masood, and more free throws for NC State.
Good defense leads to the run out that time, and Sebron probably a little upset with himself for not finishing on that dunk, but really just beat everybody down the floor. It was a foot race.
What's the key to a great transition offense?
Having guards who can pass and look up ahead. I mean, if you're not fast with the basketball, you always, as soon as you get the ball, you're looking up to see if there are any wings that are open. And that was just a, you know, it's about a 40-foot pass.
13 of NC State's 23 points has come off Wake turnovers. Now 14 to 24. And Wolfpack a perfect 6 for 6 from the free throw line. Wake has turned it over on, I believe, 4 of their last 5 trips down the floor.
And this is the thing that Steve Forbes wants to see. And Duke really, they were blocking cutters and did a good job of banging them as they were going through. And Wake had trouble finding that. But that was a call that time on Shaquille Moore.
And he's on pace to foul out before halftime. That's his 3rd. And now Wake's in the bonus. Williamson shooting 1 and 1.
I think defensively, I mean, if you're going to give up something, you make it a back cut for a layup and keep the pressure on the three-point shooters.
Obviously, Williamson played for Steve Forbes at ETSU last year. Said early in the season, Forbes would yell at Davian for other people's mistakes. Davian said, Coach knew I could handle the yelling, so he would just let me have it so other guys could kind of know, better shape it up or you'll get it soon too.
Well, he was the one who he knew intimately, so it was just the easiest one to yell at.
Oh, off the window for 3, Jericho Helms.
Well, that's when you know you have a good chance to have an afternoon scoring.
The shot, when he took it, looked like he meant to do it, but the grin on his face makes you think otherwise. Antonio, that's the look he wants. Unable to connect.
And that's arguably the best look they've had from 3 in the game so far.
Beverly at the other end. No. On the glass, Funderburk denied. And it was last touched by DeBose.
As the rookie drives off, and boy, it looked like that toe was very close to being on the line, but comes away with 3. You see the little sheepish right there. If they win, he'll hear about that in the film session, I'm sure.
The top corner of the square. Nice move inside, DJ.
Apropos of a guy who made a living like that in this building, Tim Duncan using the backboard. Never did it from 3.
That's a good call. On the drive, Mucius. Good defense by Beverly. And it'll take us to a timeout. 7:46 to play in the half. Kevin Keats and the Pack have opened up an 11-point lead.
ACC Hoops is brought to you by Blue Cross and Blue Shield of North Carolina. We resolve to help North Carolina stay healthy. Your local Ford dealer. And Continental Tire, for what you do.
It's the 60th anniversary, G-Man, of Wake Forest's first ACC tournament title. They beat Duke in the finals, 96-81 at Reynolds Coliseum. Wake Forest led by Len Chappell. Billy Packer. Chappell averaged 33.5 points, 15 rebounds per game in the tournament at 33 and 14 in the championship game for Bones McKinney.
Yeah, one of the great players in ACC history early on, and great post player inside. Of course, you saw Billy Packer there without the microphone, and I did like the shot of him in the high top white chucks.
And Billy Packer was an assistant coach at Wake Forest and a key part of recruiting Charlie Davis from Harlem, New York. Well, so Charlie honored here at halftime, 50 years after his ACC Player of the Year performance for the old Gold and Black.
Yeah, I was in the Skip Brown, Rod Griffin era. Two pretty good players in their own right.
And remind folks how many ACC schools there were when you were at Duke?
First 2 years, there were 7. And then Georgia Tech came on board for my junior and senior year. And Florida State in '93, and then the explosion.
15 schools. That's really the legacy of John Swofford, one of many. His tenure as the commissioner of this conference, which just wrapped up. Jim Phillips, the new leader of the ACC. More free throws coming here because NC State's in the bonus.
And John Swofford, such a lifer and just a steady hand when there were tectonic plate shifts going on in college sports, and couldn't have had a better steward during that time.
Beverly to the line. And now a quick word from Coyote.
At Coyote, we hold dirt in the highest regard. Coyote, we dig dirt.
Beverly buries a pair at the line, a place that he's been surprisingly struggling so far this year. Isaiah Musius is back in. Just kidding. He's still on the bench. Williamson unable to convert inside. Hayes sets Beverly up, who hits Funderburk going down the alley.
Well, and again, with you really don't have to worry about a rim protector against Wake Forest, and just a massive finish inside.
DJ is getting where he wants to go. Largest lead yet for the Wolfpack. Deacons need this one, and Williamson gets a big shot.
That's really the first full-on pressure they've seen, and then the look ahead. Boy, you make a shot and then give up a run out like that. You've got to get back defensively.
Imagine Steve Forbes is going to make that point in this timeout.
You know, on the perimeter, whoever's shooting a three, you've got to get, don't you give up the offensive rebound if there is one, but there's just no rotation back, and then Funderburk with the nice finish inside. Reason why he's shooting 57%, career 58. There's that look ahead. You can see no balance, nobody back. As easy as 2 points as you're going to get.
Great look by Beverly.
DJ's another guy. He's upped his game with Daniels out. 14 points in the last few games.
NC State's been waiting for DJ Funderburk to really be a consistent all-ACC caliber player. He certainly got the raw ability.
Well, and, you look at it on the surface, and Helms and Funderburk are the two guys who would likely make up the scoring loss with Daniels. At least they would get more touches.
Wake has turned it over 9 times.
And only, how about this, only 4 3-point field goal attempts for the Deacons right now. And it's because they're playing in the half court for this whole half. And NC State guarding that line.
Shot clock's down to 3 for Massoud. Cross court to Johnson. Beats the buzzer from the corner.
And they had to work all 30 seconds for that jump shot. Great bailout at the end of the 30-second clock.
Big shot for Jalen, who grew up in Durham. Funderburk dish off Helm's knee. Wake ball. DJ Funderburk, our Hardy's star to watch today. 8 points, 3 rebounds so far in 12 minutes.
And becomes more of a factor inside on the glass with Manny Bates in foul trouble out on the bench.
Bates played just 7 minutes and a half with 2. Jack Moore picked up his 3 fouls, Mike, and 4 minutes on the floor. DeVos defended pretty well. Gets the bounce anyway.
Yeah, tough shot. He's been quiet offensively early in this game. Only his second made field goal.
So Wake, after trailing by 14, back within 9. This trying to stay within striking distance. And free throws coming up at the other end.
Thunderbrook going to get the foul that time, a cheap one.
Sending Ian DuBose to the free throw line.
You know, Steve Forbes, and again, coming back offensively, he's been very good. Defensively is where he's had his issues, but I really like him on the offensive end. He's got a strong body, can get into the lane, take some contact.
We asked Steve Forbes if DuBose looks to him the same way he looked preseason during training camp getting ready. He said, not quite. You know, he's there offensively, but as you said, defensively and conditioning still have a long way to go. He missed basically 2 months.
Yeah, I mean, and that's like no conditioning for 2 months. And that is so hard in the middle of the season to come back from, especially when you hit league play.
5 minutes remaining in the half. Helms, good look. Rebound for Witt. Pretty good outlet for Williamson, and he fumbles it away.
Yeah, Williamson was just in too much of a hurry to get up the floor that time. Just left before he had any control of the ball.
Well, NC State defensively doesn't get a ton of credit for that turnover, but it all counts the same. Williamson just lost it. Hayes picked up by Johnson.
Helton's got a mismatch inside. They couldn't find it.
And more free throws coming. And Carter Witt with the foul.
He's been quiet. Having only 3 assists for Wake in this first half. So a lot of one-on-one, a lot of disjointed offense.
Surprisingly, only 4 assists for NC State.
And Witt was the guy down in Florida State who made things go. And 9 assists in that game.
What were you thinking last Saturday as you watched Wake really push Florida State at the time, their 23-game home winning streak in the league, to the brink?
Well, I think that Florida State is now getting used to having the target on them. That's a big game for everybody in the league. And that's something you have to get accustomed to. It's, you know, what Carolina and Duke have had for a long, long time, and Florida State is built up to that point.
Antonio made the 7 threes last Saturday in Tallahassee. Of course, Florida State would have hosted Virginia Tech today in a battle of top 20 teams, a game that everyone will really look forward to, but that game's been postponed.
And not just that individual effort, but really a Scotty Barnes game-saving tie on the layup at the end of regulation for them to get the win. And we talked to Steve Forbes. He let his team have it afterwards, saying that, hey, no moral victories here. That was a loss.
But they came into practice on Monday, Tuesday after that game, according to Forbes, almost feeling like they had won the game. That may have been an impact in the performance on Wednesday against Duke as Beverly connects from 3.
See, he's the guy, again, you've got to get up in him and defend close out on the three-point line, drive him, make him a mid-range shooter. That was just too easy of a 3.
7.5 for Beverly, and DuBose answers for the Deacons.
Answers with the same kind of thing, just lackluster D. Now, Beverly going to take the heat check.
Bombs away for Braxton Beverly. He has had some great games against the Demon Deacons in his career. And they're going to count the basket. All of a sudden, the floodgates have opened here inside Joel Coliseum. DuBose the driving bucket plus the foul. NC State still ahead double digits at the Joel. NC State having one of its best offensive halves of the season, leading 43-32. And whenever they get this guy going, these days it's a bonus. Beverly back-to-back threes for the Pack last 2 trips.
10 points in 12 minutes for him. And it must be something about Wake Forest. In last year, 2 games, 8 of 9 from the 3. And there it is all time.
Against Wake Forest in his career, he's 19 of 35 from deep. Closing in on Indiana coach Archie Miller.
I mean, it is really true that some players just feel a good vibe against certain teams.
And some teams don't defend as well.
Yeah.
Wolfpack within 10, though. DeBose, little flurry of offense himself. He's got 11. Not this time for State.
Kevin Keats testing that coming out of the timeout. That was a designated play to get him a look.
Wake's 11th turnover, and DeBose pokes it away from Sebron from behind.
As always, you know, we always talk about how teams finish out halves, and this is a critical time right now. Can Wake eat into this lead a little bit, or does State push it out?
Hey, man, both teams shooting north of 50%. Helms for three. All net.
As a team, 5 of 9 now from 3.
Helms into double figures for the 10th consecutive game. He's made a 3 and 6 in a row. Williamson unable to answer. Good rebound for Sebron, leading the break. 3-on-2. Sebron himself to the bucket.
Well, I think, you know, staying on those long threes, you get a miss like that, and a lot of times that's the first pass of a fast break. Really quick up the floor off the dribble.
Sebron's a scary guy when he's dribbling at you one-on-one. DeBose, not this time. Thunderbird pulls it down.
Wake right now not even sending anybody to the offensive glass, just trying to get 5 bodies back.
Hayes, tough shot, goes off the glass for Cam Hayes. He's got 8, and the lead is up to 17. 50 for NC State with 100 seconds left in the half. Masood. No. Wolfpack ball. Oh, we're $1:33 away from halftime, and our Toyota halftime report shaping up to be a really good one, because Charlie Davis, the 1971 ACC Player of the Year, will be honored. Wake fans will enjoy that, and Wolfpack fans will enjoy hearing our Toyota-driven feature with Kevin Keats.
And that was right at a time when the league was starting to integrate, and you know, a big deal to get him down here, and Charlie Scott at North Carolina, and you know, 2 New York guys coming down, and really had coaches who were in their corner.
On the drive, too strong for Thunderbird. Yeah, the ACC's first African-American player, Billy Jones, 1965 at Maryland. C.B. Claiborne, the first at a Big Four school. He was with Duke in '66. Charlie Scott came to Carolina in '67.
Maryland had the first black head coach in Wade.
Williamson for 2.
And then the first all-black starting 5.
Yep. Braxton Beverly, one of 3 members of the Wolfpack in double figures in the half. Sebron, Helms, and Beverly each have 10. Thunderbird has 8. Oh, with one arm, Thunderbird grabbed the rebound. Now, who's the foul on?
That's going to be on Wake. And you got the double bonus now. And this has been an issue right from the start. You see, just not a, he pushes his man underneath the basket, and good job of getting that call.
So DJ could become the 4th NC State player in double figures in a half.
With 10 points.
And this is the highest scoring first half of the season for NC State. Highest scoring half regardless, whether it's the first or the second.
21 points off turnovers for NC State in this half.
Well, they've had a lot of chances, and they've been efficient in capitalizing on them. And that's very much the difference in the game. Shot clock is off for Davian Williamson. Got the bigger Funderburk on him. Takes it anyway. Stuck back up, no good for Isaiah Wilkins. And that's how the first half will end. NC State shoots 53% from the floor. There were 6 of 9 from 3, and G-Men a perfect 10 of 10 from the line, too. They haven't had many halves like this in the Joel Coliseum. They lead by 16 at the break. It is our Toyota halftime report from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Beautiful day for a stroll in the mid-40s, sunny. 51-35, NC State in control at the half. Welcome back to the Joel. Evan Lepler with Mike Jaminski. G-Man, NC State, an impressive first half. 5 different guys have between 8 and 10 points. They've been balanced, they've been efficient, and they've taken care of Wake's mistakes.
Well, and they've done it both ends of the floor. They've shut off Wake Forest's three-point shooting, and then they're shooting over 50%, and they're getting 50% of their misses. That's a recipe for a big lead.
16 points is the advantage at the half, 51-35. Charlie Davis and Wake Athletic Director John Curry presenting the basketball to remember the 50th anniversary of his ACC Player of the Year campaign, and he was the first African-American player named Player of the Year.
Yeah, not a, and we talked about it, not an easy time for black players coming into the league, especially down south, but strong support from his team, and really a great player, and nice gesture today in Black History Month honoring Charlie.
I mean, he was just a fantastic all-around player, smooth, athletic. He could slash, he could score, and no one in the last 50 years has scored more points in a season than he did in 1971.
And you know, you wonder with the three-point line what he would have done too. And you know, great inside. You saw off the drive there, and then you see his retired jersey along with the other numbers.
Wake's had certainly plenty of history. I mean, you've seen virtually all those guys.
Yeah, I've seen too much of a lot of those guys for sure. But, you know, that's just the history of the players at each school is what makes the history of this conference, and that and the coaching.
Well, Charlie Davis grew up in Harlem and transferred to Laurinburg Institute his last year of high school. Billy Packer kind of encouraged him to attend Laurinburg, and then followed his friend Norwood Todman, who was one of his childhood buddies growing up in New York. Norwood Todman, the first African-American player at Wake Forest. Charlie Davis was the second. Gil McGregor, another great one from that era.
Yeah, my thoughts and prayers, or our thoughts and prayers, are with Gil McGregor right now, and hopefully he recovers from his health issues, but certainly thinking about him, and he was a great partner with me in the Hornets broadcast for years.
Yeah.
And also AC.
Charlie Davis still holds Wake Forest all-time single-game scoring record. He dropped 51 in a game against American February of 1969.
At NC State, our history grew from the ground up. So it's filled with dirt and sweat and long hours. It's the story of solving problems, to provide people with the tools that improve our communities. This is our history. It's also the force that drives us into the future. We are NC State. Think and do.
Welcome back to our Toyota halftime report from Winston-Salem. DJ Funderburk with 2 of his 9 first-half points. 3 members of the Wolfpack have 10, and NC State leads 51-35. All season long, we've profiled the coaches of the ACC, and today, it's NC State's Kevin Keatts.
This is Driven, Kevin Keatts, presented by your local Toyota dealers.
So, Coach, you're one of 3 African-American coaches in the league, an incredible group of coaches overall. But maybe how do we move forward and increase the presence of African-American coaches, not just in the ACC, but maybe throughout the entire NCAA footprint?
Coaches need opportunities. And, you know, I think that's one of the biggest things that we face is, you know, a lot of times when you're an African-American coach, I think sometimes you get put in a box and you become what people think is just a recruiter. Our coaches are, you know, well-rounded. You know, we do a really good job in all areas, recruiting and coaching and also X and O's. And I think the more successful that myself, I'll speak about the ACC, you know, if Leonard Hamilton's successful and Jeff Capel is successful and Kevin Keats is successful, then it may give other coaches opportunities. We lost a giant in our, you know, profession in John Thompson, but he was one of those guys that paved the way for, you know, African-American coaches to be head coaches. And certainly we're going to miss him, you know, the way he carried himself, the way he treated his family, the way he treated his players, you know, the way he coached. And, you know, just continued success, I think, will help out for the long run.
When you take a look at the ACC and you evaluate this league overall, Coach, what do you see from these 15 teams, this group, this year, and what might be some of the deciding factors as we continue forward?
Well, I see great players, I see great coaches, I see great programs. And, you know, that's always been in the ACC from 1 through 15. Every program has their strengths. I don't think any program in this league is weak. On any given night, any program can beat you. And I think that's what makes the ACC so special. You know, there's so many different styles. You've got, you know, national championships in here. You got Hall of Fame coaches. You got first-round draft picks. It's a complete conference.
Driven Kevin Keats is presented by your local Toyota dealers. The new 2020 Toyota 4Runner. Visit Toyota.com for more information.
(51-35) NC State leads at the half. That'll do it for our Toyota halftime report on Charlie Davis Day at the Joel, and we will talk to the Wake Forest legend on the other side of the break. The number 12 hangs inside the Joel Coliseum forever because of Charlie Davis's memorable 3 years as a Demon Deacon. And welcome Charlie Davis to the show. How's it feel being back at Wake Forest?
Oh, it's just magnificent. It's a little strange with so few people in the stands, but basketball's basketball. You watch them play between the lines. That part is great.
Charlie, just interested, let's go back. What did it take to get a guy from New York City to come down here to Wake Forest to go to school?
Well, I tell you, it was relatively easy. Norwood Todman was the first black basketball player at Wake Forest University. Norwood Todman and I were best of friends. We lived across the street from one another, played against one another. He told me I'd be fine, and I liked Billy Packer, who was the assistant coach. Todd was my friend, and so I came to Wake Forest sight unseen.
What do you remember most about that 1971 season where you were named Player of the Year in the league?
Just that we had a scrappy team. You know, we beat the number 4 team in the country, Artis Gilmore, and them at a tournament down at the West Coast. Down in Florida. So we had a really good team. We had a scrappy team. We worked for one another. But I was playing extremely well my senior year. I was playing as well as I was going to play for my career.
Charlie, do you have a sense, I mean, just from the racial standpoint of what you were kind of setting the table and coming down here? And what was it like during that time for you off the basketball court?
Well, in the Winston-Salem community, luckily, we had a vibrant black community, so I was welcome there. But basketball back then, you were going to go through the things that you had to go through from 1967 through 1971. That is the way that the world was. It was happening up north. It was happening here. So you heard the things, but once you got between the lines, you just performed.
In 1971, Charlie Davis, you were the ACC Player of the Year. You were drafted by the Cavaliers, and then a long time later, you came back and finished your degree, your final 18 hours, got your diploma from Wake. What did that mean to you?
It was the most important thing. I was the first high school graduate in my family. The opportunity to go to college was something we never dreamed of, and Mom especially wanted that degree. And the opportunity to come back here and get it was extremely special.
Charlie, what are your, just how closely have you been able to, follow the program? I know Steve Forbes told us yesterday that it's been troubling to him to not be able to have a lot of the great players back. And do you look forward to that once we get out of this pandemic?
I really do. The plain fact of the matter is I'm 71 years old, and I'm in that group that is vulnerable. So it's been difficult. You can't really come out. You can't be around the team because different spikes and things such as that. I am looking forward to the opportunity to get back over here. I've always been welcome here. The other coaches have. I'm looking forward to meeting Coach Forbes and his group also.
Hey, Charlie, it's a thrill for us to get a chance to spend a few minutes with you. Thanks so much. We'll let you enjoy the rest of the second half.
Hey, thank you so much, fellas. Y'all take care.
Charlie Davis, the 1971 ACC Player of the Year for the Wake Forest Demon Deacons.
What a great perspective on history of the league and the time that he came here and how he performed. I hope that these guys have a grasp of who came before them.
And that was really cool. Shot clock winding down for Wake, and that possession didn't go well. Jericho Helms had no choice but to just throw it back into the court of play. Both teams making shots, G-Man, in the first few minutes of the second half.
Well, and that's the thing, Wake can't afford to do. They've got to come up with some stops defensively and take care of the basketball.
Hose rattles the three in and out. Encourage you to stand by for the fourth fast break coming up at some point here in the second half.
Just to give you a little tease on that, NC State has a sizable lead in that category.
Fast break points, 15-1. Florida State and Pittsburgh, the third game of our triple header, coming up with Bob Rathbun and Dan Bonner at the top of the hour.
The lanky Virginian coming in and snagging that makeup game.
Well, I prepared for that game in early January, and then you prepared for that game in early February, and now the third time's the charm, and you and I will be spectators from afar. Third time that the Seminoles and Panthers have been on the schedule. First two times postponed, but it looks like they are going to give it a run today.
It'll be interesting to see how Justin Champagny does against that huge front line, big team in general.
Carter Witz 3, no. And Funderburk pulls down the rebound. Ellen's on the drive. Count it, and the foul as he flexes his muscles to the Wolfpack bench. NC State having itself a day, but not to spoil the memory of Charlie Davis, the Wake Forest legend, here in Winston-Salem.
ACC Hoops is brought to you by the Works Landroid Robotic Lawnmower. Step into the future of lawn care and check mowing off your to-do list for good. Available at mylandroid.com. CPI Security. And Honda Dealers of the Carolinas.
So many of the Wake Forest legends here virtually today. Riley Skinner, the quarterback of Wake's ACC championship team in 2006. His three sons to his right, along with his wife Megan. Cardboard cutouts here at the Joel. And how about what Jericho Helms has done? He's been thrust into a bigger role, and he's risen to the occasion.
And that's the thing. We talked about one guy is not going to replace Devin Daniels. However, this is the perfect game and the snapshot of what has to happen. They're 1 point away from having 5 guys in double figures, and that's a really perfect way to distribute the offense.
Kind of an old school thing too in the one and done era, to have a guy who sticks around, improves, and becomes a mainstay contributor.
And Kevin Keats, this is the first year he didn't take a transfer, a grad transfer, or just building everything through recruiting, and in the state of North Carolina as well.
Shot clock winding down on Wake. You think the growing pains that the Wolfpack have endured the last month or so, dropping 8 of 10, they'll reap the benefits down the road from the experience these freshmen have got.
Yeah, and and talking to Kevin Keats, we both, he said, hey, look, I'm not already looking toward next year, but you can see the benefit of the freshmen who are getting playing time as a result. It is going to help them down the road.
Hardaway, another freshman who's been thrown into the fire.
Sebron with a nice defensive move play.
Curious, you've seen NC State a bunch. Sebron, Moore, Hayes, the three freshmen. What do you think of each of those guys?
I think of Moore as more of a combo guard, a guy who can score the ball for you. Cam Hayes, we've seen him make some threes in this game, but his assist to turnover ratio is the best of the group.
Say they're all really athletic.
Yep. And strong, very well built.
Has not been Odi Aguama's day thus far. Couple up fakes.
And it was 1-on-5 in there. He had 4 weight guys back in transition.
It's his first points of the game. Helms comes up short.
And he's had double figures 4 of the last 6 games, so Aguama's been a very reliable scorer.
There's the 13th Wake Forest turnover. And there's the 9th NC State turnover. Always good when the broadcast is in sync with the graphics. Massoud rejected by Bates. Goodness. Hayes the other way, flips it. Sebron lays it in.
NC State this afternoon has really done a nice job of their transition from defense to offense. And that time, a lot of times, a block will lead to a break.
12 points for Darion Sebron. Career high for him.
Here's the look, and this is what you do. You have to attack a shot blocker, but Manny Bates up to the attack. One of the top 10 shot blockers in the country, let alone being the best in this conference, and then converting on the other end. And that shot of Carter Witt kind of sums it up, holding his hands up in the air, saying, I don't know.
Sebron 2 points in the first meeting against Wake, 12 today. Antonio, that's his first 3.
Yeah, that's desperate. There's still plenty of time for a team that shoots the 3 as well and relies on the 3 as much as Wake does. They haven't gotten good looks, but that was a tough shot.
5 points for Jonah. Helms got to his spot. Going the other way. One thing to keep in mind, Wake with 13 turnovers right now. The Wolfpack are 8-1 this year when forcing at least 15 turnovers. They're 1-8 when forcing less than 15 turnovers.
Well, we talked about Jonah Antonio. He's a catch and shoot guy, but he really has a quick release and reminds me of another guy who went to Virginia Tech and played for the Hornets, Del Curry, who didn't need very much room at all, and his son's also the same.
And that's some lofty praise you're throwing at Jonah.
Well, it's just his release. I mean, that's, when you are a catch and shoot guy, that's what you have to have.
Sebron, it's his day. Feeling it. 14 for the freshman. And it's crazy. He's a redshirt freshman, sat out last year. Technically, he'll still be a freshman under NCAA classification next year, too.
And see, that's what Kevin Keats needs, for somebody to step up like that, along with their other primary scorers. But if Sebron averaging 4 a game gives you double figures, it really helps your offense out.
Worth mentioning, things kind of unraveled for the Deacons in the first half when Musius picked up that second foul. It was very competitive early. Wake had 6 turnovers in the next 9 minutes after Musius checked out. He's catch by Funderburg, keeping that alive. Shot clock's at 4. Zips it for Beverly. Quick release. No. And it'll be a shot clock violation. They'll fix that net, you'd think, during the break. We'll get ourselves a timeout. Kevin Keats perplexed by that last possession. It's time for CPI Security, protecting the paint. That's just what Manny Bates does.
Yeah, and does it better than anybody in the conference and one of the best in the country, but really allows your defense on the perimeter to take some chances knowing you got him back there to clean up the mess.
3 blocks in the game for Manny. 135 now in his career.
Yeah, he has more blocks than Wake Forest does as a team.
That's a staggering stat.
And we talked about it early too. His offense has gotten better. He used to be a guy that would solely rely on offensive rebounding or tips and playing off people driving, but now they can give him the ball in the low post and let him work.
NC State's largest lead has been 19. Don't forget Florida State and Pittsburgh. 16th ranked Seminoles heading to the Peterson Event Center. 4 o'clock with Bob Rathman and Dan Bonner. That's turnover number 15, and that's a key number for the Wolfpack. NC State's got a tough one coming up this week on Wednesday at Virginia. Looking forward to Virginia and Duke later this evening.
That's a huge game for Duke.
Thunderbird, easy too.
Try to build some momentum off of they had a good win here, and then to get a win against Virginia to try to strengthen that tournament resume, which needs some work at this point.
Coach K and company were locked in early at the Dole Coliseum. And Steve Forbes never sees Matt hurt in an opposing uniform again. He'll be okay with that.
There's the look, and you know, for right here, it's tough. He really makes a lot of room for himself, Thunderbird, by pushing his man up to the free throw line, so there's a lot of space to throw over the top for the lob.
Thunderbird into double figures, the 5th member of NC State in that department. How about this line for Darion Sebron? 14 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, and a block.
Yep.
On the drive, Shaq Moore joins the party. NC State is getting what it wants here, Mike.
Well, you talked about those numbers. I mean, he had a 7-rebound game against North Carolina. Talking about Sebron right now, and you know, obviously Kevin Keith says, "Hey, I give my guys a lot of freedom offensively, taking advantage."
You can tell just by the tilt of his head that behind the mask, Steve Forbes is frustrated on the Wake Forest bench. Sebron again on the drive. Nice little step, and he's swatted from behind by Mucius, and it was last touched by NC State.
Well, and you know, the game against Florida State, Wake was able, they were either knocking down threes or getting back cuts, and really were shredding that defense. And you know, they wind up losing the game, but that's great recovery that time by Mucius. But so far, Wake only 5 of 16 in this game from behind the arc. And, you know, I thought going into this afternoon, they, you know, bare minimum double figures.
They're 3rd in the ACC in made threes per game, averaging about 9 per game. They made 15 threes in the win over Pittsburgh back in January.
I thought they'd need a kind of performance like they got against, you know, Florida State, or shooting a high percentage.
See if they can get hot in the 4th quarter of this game. Aguama, only 2 points for Odie. Taking his time on Bates, over his shoulder. Oh, nice offensive rebound by Wilkins. And then he turns it over, trying to get it back to Aguama. The foul's on Witt. Number 3 on Carter.
Yeah, tough time, and things kind of boiled over for Steve Forbes in the Duke game, and his frustration showing, and getting shown the locker room in that game, and you know, frustrated, I'm sure, here this afternoon. But a lot of that you can lay at NC State's foot. You know, they've been terrific.
Steve Forbes ejected with more than 3 minutes left in the first half against Duke. A couple of quick tees issued by Tony Henderson, officiating on Wednesday night. Asked after the game what he said. He said, "That's between me, the officials, and the ACC."
Yep. As it should be.
But aren't you curious?
Oh, I got a sense of what.
This COVID pandemic era, you're supposed to be able to hear everything. We did not hear that. Probably not going to find out either. Offensive rebound by Helms, and he draws the foul, surrounded by 4 Deacons.
Yeah, see, I mean, somehow you've got to come up with the basketball in that situation, and it's just hard work. He gets the offensive rebound.
Third personal on DuBose. Only the 3rd foul and a half, though, on Wake. Back to the Fayetteville native. Bates comes up short. I'll tell you, I like Darion Sebron. Easy to say today after the performance he's had. But his combination of size, athleticism, obviously not a big-time outside shooter yet, but you think that'll improve?
And that's the thing. It goes back to the injury, and this is in no way, you know, I don't want this to sound the wrong way, but when a person goes down with injury, it opens up opportunities for other people. And Sebron, no, if Devin Daniels were playing, Sebron wouldn't be seeing these minutes that he's getting. But it's one thing to see the minutes, another thing to take advantage.
Excellent point. Shaq Moore. He's now got 6.
You know, and you keep responding like this, and your head coach gets, you know, the confidence in you builds and builds with him.
And Moore played a season-best 30 minutes on Wednesday at Pitt. DuBose lightens it up, drains a 3. Sebron has played 30 of the 32 minutes so far today, so he's going to have another career high in terms of time on the floor. Sebron again flips it up to Bates. And Manny will get 2 more free throws after the timeout. NC State came into today trying to get back above 500. They look on track to do just that. Our Coyote Tractor turning point, the performance of Darion Sebron. He averages just under 4 a game. He's got 14 to go along with 7 rebounds, 3 assists, and 4 steals, Mike.
Yeah, Evan, you look at it, and he's not a 3-point threat, but man, when he gets out in the open court, he is tough to deal with, and doing it on the other end of the floor as well, and slashing, driving, getting to the rim, using his size well.
Post-grad year at Massanutten Military Academy in Woodstock, Virginia, after winning a state title at Lake Taylor High School on the shore. Manny Bates back to the free throw line for the Wolfpack here. It's very possible, Mike, that NC State could finish this game with 7 guys in double figures, because they got 5 right now. Shaq Moore's got 6 points. Manny Bates has 6 as well.
Well, and that's again, I'll revisit the point that that's the best thing possible when your leading scorer goes out to share it, and who's going to carry the burden? Well, we're all going to step our game up a little.
Imagine Devin Daniels has enjoyed watching this one, and you know, we're on the verge of seeing a little history today, because it's not every year that NC State can win 3 consecutive ACC road games. You got to go back to the 01-02 season as Bates scores 2 more. He's got 8 now. But back in 02 under Herb Sendek was the last time in one season NC State won 3 consecutive ACC road games, and they're 640 away from doing that again in 2021.
And Kevin Keats, they've had their chances. He's won 2 consecutive road games a number of times, but hadn't been able to get that 3rd.
Comes over BC, Boston, Pittsburgh, and trying to finish off the Deeks. Certainly different feeling for this Saturday compared to last for Jonah Antonio. Bates looking for double figures. I'll have a chance to get there at the line.
Well, you know, like Steve Forbes said, he told us we're not the only team that scouts.
Scotty Barnes, the reason that Florida State survived Wake Forest with his buzzer-beating bucket. Meanwhile, the ACC's leader in points and rebounds, Justin Champagnie, try to prevent our triple header from being 3 blowouts where the road team dominates. Georgia Tech took care of Miami, and NC State's in charge here.
Scotty Barnes is such an unusual talent. Played power forward in high school, and then Leonard Hamilton has turned him into a point guard. He made that incredible full-court play against Wake Forest to tie the game, to send it to overtime.
1 of 2 there for Bates. There's a pretty impressive history since 1988. Duncan, Jamison, Hansborough, Bagley, and Champagny to lead the ACC in points and rebounds per games. All of them have been ACC Player of the Year, which inspired me to wonder, has there ever been a guy to lead the league in points and rebounds and not be Player of the Year? And the answer is yes. Wake Forest Rod Griffin got denied by Phil Ford.
I know you would have the answer to that. And
I guess, Mike, you tied Rod for the lead in rebounds that year, but
well, a history of ties. I was tied for Rookie of the Year with Hawkeye Whitney from NC State. But Rod is a terrific college basketball player. Such a load inside, maybe a little bit short, but he was so strong.
What was it like trying to protect the rim when Phil Ford was running around?
I was always behind him. I don't know. He did ask me. There was a painting somebody did of him, and it was him scoring a layup against me in his senior game.
You could see your shadow behind me.
And he called me. He actually called me and said, "Do you mind if we do this picture?" And it just shows you the class act that he is. And I said, "Heck no, I'd be proud to be up on somebody's wall with you."
Good block there by Thunderberg. Yeah, well, Phil was ACC Player of the Year in '78 after Griffin won it in '77. And of course, the ACC Player of the Year in 1979, Mike Kaminsky sitting here to my right. The history of that award in this conference, it means something.
No, I'll tell you, you get chosen to be the best of the best, and it's a pretty humbling honor.
Lee Cassell ducking underneath that pass like he's entering limbo contest. Sebron looking to get to 17 with that make. Loose in the backcourt. Jump ball belongs to Wake. Well, what's next for the Deacs? They've got a matinee on Wednesday against Clemson. That's the schedule right now. Of course, Clemson is a program on pause. Tigers have the longest active winning streak in the ACC right now. They've won 3 straight.
Yeah, and a team that I think has an extremely realistic chance of being in the NCAA tournament. I think a lot's going to depend on how they finish out the year, and also in the ACC tournament. It's going to be fascinating to me to see how the ACC tournament unfolds. There were a couple of games that were played last year, but basically shut down after early rounds.
Still hard to believe that's nearly a year ago.
And we're still dealing with it in so many different levels.
Nice hop, skip, and a jump to the bucket by Ishmael Massoud. His first field goal after an 0-for-4 start.
I think in the league has done a terrific job. Football, there's a lot more room to maneuver with games and pauses, but very tough in basketball, and they've still managed to have a good competitive year so far.
Cam Hayes. And Bates over the back will be the call. It's his 3rd personal. We'll take our final timeout. 3:57 remaining. All Wolfpack. Coming up tomorrow, an ACC women's basketball doubleheader, and a good one. Syracuse, Virginia Tech tips us off at noon. I'll be with Kelly Deo at Castle Coliseum. Great post matchup, Cardoso and Kitley. And then Georgia Tech, one of the big surprises in the ACC and women's hoops this year, taking on Taylor Soule and Boston College from Chestnut Hill at 2 o'clock. Dean Linke and Tabitha Turner will have the call there from Connie Forum.
I think, Evan, you look at Georgia Tech on the men's side, those 2 losses early at home to Georgia State and Mercer, where you were thinking, well, man, it's going to be a long year. And they got things turned around.
And yet, those 2 losses might be the 2 things that keep them out of March Madness.
Yep.
When it's all said and done, we'll see. Certainly a dominant performance today for the Jackets down in Miami. Fourth personal foul on Shaquille Moore.
Yeah, he hadn't really gotten in a rhythm. He had those 3 fouls in the first half, and you know it's going to be because of the score. But Kevin Keats basically playing 7 guys.
And now a quick word from Works.
Works Landroid Robotic Lawnmower. Available at mylandroid.com. The future of lawn care is here.
If I had a lawn, I'd so have one of those.
Might be time for you to get a lawn.
No doubt about it.
Most lawns were frozen, covered in ice here in Winston-Salem earlier this week.
Needed a Zamboni over here for your yard.
Always wanted to ride a Zamboni. Maybe one day.
One of the great jobs in sport.
When you retire from everything else, Mike, you can become the 7-foot Zamboni driver. That's for the Hurricanes.
That's a bucket list. Just one time, though. I don't want to make a career of it.
Offensive foul there. One and done for Mike on the Zamboni.
Yep. I checked skydiving off this year, so.
Yeah. Not going to do that again?
No, I want to do that again. That was as cool a moment as I've had.
From how high?
13,000.
And how scared were you?
I think I was too scared to be scared. I was just a little numb before it, but it was once you do it, it's really exhilarating.
Glad you survived.
Yeah.
Playing ACC basketball in 2021 feels like a little bit of a free fall sometimes with the uncertainty of what's going to happen.
Well, I just, haven't been here. I started, in the ACC broadcasting with, with Skip Prosser and his years here and Josh Howard, and this place rocked.
That's Chase Graham with his second 3 of the season, his first minutes since December 3rd. And end of the bench guys going to get some run the final few minutes for NC State. Bucket that Chase Graham will remember. 78-55. NC State going to sweep Wake Forest 3 of the last 4 years. And this is going to be the first time since the Joel Coliseum opened that NC State's going to win at the Joel 3 times in 4 years. 78-55 NC State. It's time for the Ford Fast Break. From Winston-Salem, NC State in control, 78-55. And our first game today was an even bigger lopsided affair. Georgia Tech in charge. Here's Tom Wermy. Tom, Brian, thank you. Man, it looks beautiful down there as usual. And huge game for Georgia Tech coming up on Tuesday at Virginia Tech, 7 p.m. on your regional sports network. That has been your Ford Fast Break from Winston-Salem. 2 minutes, 10 seconds remaining here in the second half. Disappointing week for Steve Forbes. Disappointing week for Steve Forbes and the Demon Deacons with 2:10 remaining. They played Florida State so tough last Saturday in Tallahassee. Take the Seminoles to overtime and then lose by 24 to Duke, trailing by 23 to NC State.
There had to be a hangover effect from that loss at Florida State. That's a game, again, you don't have shouldas and couldas, but they played so well, and just one play away from coming out of there with a win, which not a lot of people do in Tallahassee.
Lead swells to 25. And the Wolfpack have not had a ton of success in this building and has been around since the 1989-90 season. Wake has won about 3/4 of the matchups between the Deacons and the Pack here at the Joel. And yeah, Kevin Keats has won here 3 times in 4 years on the job. Now Wolfpack fans want them to just start beating the Tar Heels a little more regularly.
There's always something.
Yes.
Always something in the triangle. It's a tough neighborhood.
Of course, Wake Forest and NC State used to be a good bit closer together.
Yeah.
When Wake Forest was in Wake Forest before moving to Winston-Salem. You played in the Big Four tournament, right?
Yes. Yeah, that was a great tournament. That really kind of signaled the start of college basketball. It was that first weekend after Thanksgiving.
I'd love for that to get rekindled somehow.
Well, the thing was, those games didn't count toward your ACC record. And somebody was coming out of there 0-2.
And growing up in the Boston area, our producer Rob Reichley, a fellow New Englander, the Beanpot was always a big deal. Yep. Boston University, Boston College, Harvard, and Northeastern. 4 college hockey teams would meet back-to-back Mondays in January every year. And it was a huge deal.
Wicked good.
Thank you for that. You're a New Englander, too, at heart.
Yes, of course. Connecticut's right there. So it's a weird state. The Southern Connecticut is very much a New York fan base. Northern Connecticut is all Boston.
I know you're a Yankee fan, but we can get along anyway.
No, we can't. Who says we can get along?
Well, since the Red Sox traded Mookie Betts, I'm a little more comfortable around Yankee fans. Johnson looking for 3, not there. Wake with only 6 made threes in the game.
And that was the part of the game plan this afternoon that they've executed to perfection. Just never letting Wake have even a good look from 3.
An impressive performance from Kevin Keats in the Wolfpack. 5 guys in double figures. Bates with 9. Moore with 8. And for the first time in 19 years, NC State's going to win 3 consecutive ACC road games. And to try to make it 4 in a row, Mike, they're going to have to do something that not many have done in the last decade, which is win in John Paul Jones Arena.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, you look at Virginia, and they had some tough losses. San Francisco earlier in the year, but Tony Bennett's teams are always better in February and March than they are in December.
Don't forget Florida State, Pittsburgh coming up. Bob Rathbun and Dan Bonner. A couple of broadcasting legends in their own right. Standing by from Peterson Event Center. Foul called on Ebenezer Duwana.
I think, you look at last year, and Florida State and Virginia were playing as well as anybody in the country. And you could argue very well that, they were a Final Four team. And I think the same can be said this year as well. It's just going to be so strange in how it unfolds with COVID and in the bubble and in the state of Indiana.
It's going to be different.
So many variables.
Going to be very, very different. Herb Sendek's Wolfpack in 01-02 won 3 straight ACC road games, and the Wolfpack haven't done it since until now. Kevin Keats and Steve Forbes meet at midcourt as NC State sweeps the season series from the Deacons. An emphatic 18-point win today, 80-62.
That's where you build your resume in this league and in any league, Evan, is on the road. You defend home court, and then you get out and you steal a few on the road, play 500 ball on the road.
Well, these 3 road wins, they dominated Boston College, led for the most of that game. They led for 36 minutes on Wednesday against Pitt. NC State in the lead for about 80% of this game, nearly 32 minutes in front as well. And NC State gets the impressive win to improve to 10-9 on the year. And we've got a headset courtside, and we got Jericole Helms. Jericole, welcome. Congrats on the way. We're across the way. Apparently, he's got the wrong headset. Headsets are everywhere these days. Find the right one. Jericole, we got the right headset on. Thanks for joining us. Congrats on the win.
Appreciate it.
What was the key today in your mind to get this big win?
Just getting stops on the defensive end. I think we were a little lackadaisical, including myself last game. Still got the win, but just coach told us to start on the defensive end.
Jericho, talk about how this team has come together with the injury to Devin Daniels, who was against Wake Forest earlier in the year, and how your game as a team and you individually have improved.
I just, first of all, team-wise, we just stepped up. We know a man was down, and we're brothers at the end of the day, and we want to be successful, and we know that's going to take everybody, so including myself. So.
Jericho, how have the three freshman guards, Darian, Shaquille, and Cam, grown from where they were in November to where they are now?
They've grown a lot. They're just taking every day and taking it as a learning experience and just trying to improve every day and being good listeners. So.
Jericho, we talked to Coach Keats yesterday, and he talked about, the loss of Daniels was also big from a vocal and a leadership standpoint. Who has kind of stepped up to fill to fill that void in the locker room?
I think it's a couple guys. Just as a veteran, you always have to be a talker. You can't just be not vocal at all. So I would say me, Manny, DJ, and a couple other guys that's just natural-born leaders, and they're going to talk. So.
Last thing, not sure you're aware of this, but this is the first time in 19 years that NC State has won 3 straight ACC road games. You guys have gotten BC, Pitt, and Wake. The toughest one yet is coming up this Wednesday at Virginia. What are you most looking forward to about that challenge?
It's the next game up, and we're ready to get to it and prepare as best we can.
As an offensive player, do you go into the game against Virginia with a different mindset because of their defensive reputation?
Yes, they're a great defensive team, but we know the things that we need to improve on and get better on so that we can go out there and be prepared. So.
All right, Jericho, we'll let you get to the locker room. Appreciate your time. Congrats on the win.
Thank you very much.
Jericho Helms, an impressive performance today. 1 of 5 Wolfpack in double figures. He had 14 points, and NC State shoots 50% for the game, Mike.
Well, you talked about the arena up in Virginia being a tough place to play, but they've got some good momentum on the road.
We'll be back to Winston after this. Just a few minutes away from tip-off in Pittsburgh. MJ Walker, 14 points a game, leading the Seminoles. A top 20 squad getting ready to battle Xavier Johnson. He had 32 against a ranked Virginia Tech team, the highest scoring game in the ACC all season.
And the thing about they have to be prepared with Florida State. You're going to see 10 guys, and they're going to give maximum effort when they're out on the floor. They're going to pick you up 94 feet, and you have to be able to handle that pressure and handle their size as well.
What's the message for NC State going forward? This is a team obviously without Devin Daniels, but as they show, and they play well, they can beat teams even on the road.
Yeah, I think, Kevin and, Jericho said it there. It's his next game up. I mean, they're just focused. They know that their main guy is not going to be playing again this year, unfortunately. And they look like they're starting to, find a new identity.
Manageable schedule down the stretch. The tough game at Virginia, but then they face Pittsburgh, who they've beaten 11 straight times. Trip to Notre Dame, and then Virginia Tech at PNC Arena on March the 6th. 3 weeks from tomorrow, or 3 weeks from tonight, is the ACC championship game. We're winding down. Final score today, 80-62. Don't forget Florida State Pitt coming up with Bob Rathbun and Dan Bonner. Tomorrow, an ACC Women's Hoops doubleheader, tipping off at noon from Blacksburg. Thanks so much for being with us today. For our producer, Rob Reichley, our director, Ken Neal. For Mike Jaminski, I'm Evan Leffler saying so long from the Joel Coliseum.